Got Your Eers On is brought to you by Tactical Legion 9.
Hi, everybody. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Got Your Eers On. Guido here, along with Scoot.
Yoo-hoo!
And Judson.
Guido, it has been a hot minute since we had a pod, and we have some things to catch up on.
I mean, I feel like we took some time off. Here's how I equate it.
Everybody needs a little time away. I heard Guido say.
So, we are here for the WVU fans, right?
Yes.
We're here for you.
We're here to hear, we're here for you. It's been tough. It's a tough go the last couple of years with the football and the basketball. And I feel like, Johnson, nobody was here for us. And so we just needed some time away.
Yeah, right. Sometimes you got to recharge the battery, Scoot. Sometimes you just got to step away.
Right.
To be a good... To
stay sharp,
to be a buddy to these podcast listeners that we are trying to be.
Yes.
And help everyone get through this stuff together. Sometimes you got to step away and recharge the batteries.
Well, I feared that we would be responsible for several people driving their vehicles over a cliff. If they listen to week upon week, sometimes we need to break away to save lives.
Last week, when we decided not to do a show, we were texting about it on our group text chat that we have going on, and Scoot was like, "Yeah, I don't want to do the most depressing show in West Virginia sports."
Are you saying it would have been negative, Scoot? Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm saying that we saved lives by taking a week off.
That feels weighty, but okay. Maybe.
Possibly true. Though.
Possibly.
So since we have last done a show, West Virginia has won 2 games, lost 3 games. They beat Iowa State. They lost to Texas, lost to Baylor. They beat Oklahoma State handily, and then a tough loss to Kansas, guys. And I have to say, I'm just going to continue the same train of thought I've had all season long with this team. It might be, at least for a while, it might be the most difficult WVU basketball team I have ever had to watch play basketball, because the parts are there, the players are there, the wins are not there. Scooty.
Yeah, I was the glass half full guy.
You've been all in.
I was the glass half full guy.
You've been holding the rope. You were
12 wins.
This last 2 weeks has shut me down. It's
tested you.
It has made me chug my glass so that it's now not even half empty. It's empty.
Okay.
It's
well, you had mixed in this run since we've been away. The home loss to Texas Tech that felt like the pin in the proverbial bubble, Scoot. Like it just felt like that loss was so painful at home.
And I'm going to say this with some respect. I feel like a lot of our issue has been coaching.
Okay.
And I've said this before slightly, but now I really feel it.
Okay.
The talent is there. I don't feel that the team is the problem. I don't feel that the team is the problem. I feel the way they're managed, the situational stuff, perhaps how they're prepared, game scheme, some of that kind of thing.
Rotations, maybe.
I feel that has been the issue, because if you look at the talent, the guys are still performing. So why are we losing, right? So if guys are still scoring, like Eric Stevenson's still scoring points. Trey Mitchell, who's been somewhat inconsistent, but for the most part, he's still getting double-digit scoring. If anyone's fallen off, maybe it's Emmett Matthews. I think Emmett's kind of become a little bit of a ghost or a puzzle. Although here lately, he's kind of picked it back up slightly. We're not getting hardly anything out of our center spot right now. So there's something is amiss. The talent is there, though the talent hasn't changed. And the reason why people are still considering us an NCAA tournament team is because the talent is there. It's not because the coaching is tremendous, because if you were going to just put teams in based on their coaches, you would look at the Hall of Fame type coaches and just put them in. but that's not how you do this.
So let me ask you this question, Johnson. So Scoot's on the one end extreme. Now he's like jumping off the team bandwagon.
Yes.
I'm trying to sort out for me how much of this is the fact that the Big 12 in general is just a juggernaut. I mean, the loss to Kansas, be it a loss, and and Joey Toots kind of threw it away there in the last 10 seconds, like, was a good loss. Like, they played good. The press looked good. They actually, and coming out of those timeouts and the traps and the press, like, it looked good. And so then I start to go, well, how much is it the fact that the Big 12 is just so hard? Like, it's just we're losing to teams that are good, like Texas and Kansas. And you look at things like Ken Palm, and the Ken Palm ratings have every Big 12 team in the going into the tournament. They have West Virginia. Ken Palm, the computers still have West Virginia ranked 20th in the nation. They're the only team in the top 40 of Ken Palm that has 16 wins. Every other team has 20, 19, 18. I'm having a hard time like understanding, like, and I said this, like, and I just keep what I keep saying. Like, I said that this team was going to have a tough conference season, was going to win maybe 1 or 2 games in the conference tournament, and then was going to make a Sweet 16 run. And I still think that's possible. That's what's crazy about this team.
The conference is a juggernaut. I mean, there's no denying that. I think, just as an aside, I think looking at some other scores over the last, couple weeks since we've been away, I think Iowa State has now lost 4 in a row. They were like at the top of the conference in early to mid-January, stuff like that. So I think everyone is trying to navigate this gauntlet. But I guess, Guido, my comment would be, this is your conference. Like, I know it's tough, but if we're being honest with ourselves, we want it to be tough. We want to face the best teams. That's what we claim to have loved about the Big East, the physicality. There were no weeks off, really. Rutgers, maybe. But, you were always on. So I think, yes, it is a gauntlet, but I think now with as many games as we've played and the benefit of hindsight over this whole body of work, isn't it frustrating to you that you can probably rattle off 3 to 5 games where if foul shots are made, if the plan doesn't fall apart, if we don't turn the ball over 20 plus times, you probably close those games out. You probably have your 19 wins, and we're not even having this conversation. I think that's the frustration of it. And that's why I tend to lean in Scoot's direction. I think there are parts of this season, had it been managed a little bit better, had it been coached up a little bit better, I would even submit, I know we're going to get into it, but look, the last 24 seconds of this Kansas game, could the stars have aligned any better to give you a shot at Phog Allen Fieldhouse to make something happen in your 11th try under Hugs there? I would submit no. I mean, you had a wonderful opportunity and it wasn't closed out. Now in the post game, Hugs says, Scoot, he said we were going to run the same thing we were going to run for Eric that we did at Auburn, but it was cut off. I respect that. Fine. There wasn't a plan B. Like if it got cut off, it got pretty immediately cut off. We then dribble out pretty much the rest of that 24 seconds and we don't even get a shot up. I think that's the painful part of that is you're not even getting a shot up. I'd rather deal with missing a shot than just watching the clock run
What's
out.
frustrating to me in that game against Kansas is Joe Toussaint. I'll be honest, I'd rather the ball in his hands than Kedrian for me. That's just, I feel I'm more comfortable with that. 2, he did give the ball up, and then Emmett Matthews, for whatever reason, instead of being assertive, Emmett gave it right back to him.
Right. It was really weird. I agree with you on that.
Kind of put him in a bad, so like people are going to blame Joe Toussaint for dribbling the ball out, but Joe Toussaint wasn't really supposed to get that ball back.
Right.
And the fact that he got it back and now you're like clock is ticking. Like, so
and
like
he had to force that. He had to force what he did there. Right.
Just
Absolutely.
take the shot or dribble drive, Emmett. Why are you giving the ball back up? You're supposed to be the 5th-year leader guy. Like, what are you doing? You're going to give it back to Joe Toussaint, who's really not the guy.
Well, and I think that leads to Joe, like Joey Toots thing gets, if you're on Twitter like we are, everyone is really raking Joey Toots over the coals. And I think in his defense, I mean, there should have been a clear plan B. If you go back and just watch the highlight of that play, because everyone has played it everywhere since the game ended, there was a lot of just standing around. I mean, in his defense, everyone else just went into statue mode. It didn't look
Emmett
like
Matthews
there was
treats it like a hot potato.
Right. So
I don't want
mean,
this thing. You take
I
it.
have a hard time criticizing Joe Toussaint too much because
His job is to get the ball to somebody. He did his job, and then you give it right back to him.
Right.
Like, I don't want to take it.
Anyway, it was frustrating. Like I said, I'd rather deal with missing a shot than not getting one up on the rim.
Let's talk about that inside presence from that Kansas game.
Okay.
Our center spot.
Or their lack thereof.
Or lack
you mean,
thereof.
Right.
Yeah.
Jimmy Bell, ghost.
What happened? What happened to him, Scoot?
Well, and Scoot, I would rope James Okonkwo in there too.
Right.
I mean, I think
I agree.
together.
Yeah, but I don't. But I think the difference is, Johnson, is we weren't expecting, like, James Okonkwo stepped it up a couple of games this season. We weren't expecting him to be
That's fair.
that presence.
Yeah, that's fair.
And Mo is injured.
He's hurt, right?
I guess he's hurt, so he's out. And so,
But you take those two guys. I'm just saying, take those two guys together. They played 25 minutes. I think between them, they scored 1 point.
Right.
So, and Scoot, I go back to November 24th, and we play Purdue, and we play that guy who's like, I don't know, every time I hear about him, he's like an extra inch taller. He's 8'2" now.
Zach Edey. Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. But anyway, like Jimmy Bell, like Tonka looked great against him in that game. He kept him, and like, what happened? What happened to that Jimmy Bell? Right.
Right.
Like, where's the not just it's not the points, like, it's not the production as much as it is the presence, right?
And he's had games. I don't know if it's him being motivated by somebody else to, like, if you remember the Kansas State guy or Texas TCU guy.
TCU Lampkin.
Yeah, there was somebody kind of saying that he was the best big man in the Big 12, and Jimmy took exception to that and played really well.
Well, would you say that Jimmy Bell is in his well, I don't know if it's in his defense, but Guido, do you think it's similar to kind of where you were going at the start of this? I mean, Jimmy's coming in, Scoot, from a junior college as a transfer.
Right.
Maybe he's kind of hitting the wall. I mean,
right.
I think
he is.
It's a grueling schedule. Our travel is crazy. Just
they're tough teams.
Yeah, right.
They're playing tough.
He did do well early on, and whatever the kid's name was from Florida, Mount Fujitomo,
right. What was that guy's name?
I don't know.
Yeah,
it was like a Japanese
mountain. That guy was huge. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Fatubo. I don't know, something. Anyway. But even Castleton, like, he did really well there.
Yeah.
Like, but all of those games were earlier in the season. So you might be onto something where, when you're playing for whatever that team was that he played for, that junior college team, they were the Hounds. I don't know what the name of the school was. But when you play there, like, are you playing 30 plus games? Are you playing, I don't know that you are. You might be playing 20 games.
It just makes me wonder if from a stamina side of things, I don't know. I still think Jimmy Bell can be that guy, but in the last, Guido, I think I read coming into Kansas, I think in the last 6 games, he was averaging like 3 points, 3 rebounds. I mean, he just kind of not there,
He's got this, what I guess maybe is where we as fans get caught up. I get caught up. He's similar size probably to Devin Williams or even the Turk, right? And we saw offensive production from those guys, and they're not the same, right? So Jimmy Bell is not those guys. And for me, I have to reset my expectations. Like, he's not going to be a big time offensive threat.
Yeah.
If he gets you 10 points, that's a great game for Jimmy.
Yeah.
I think he's got good feet. I don't know that he's got great hands.
Well, and the interesting thing in this Kansas game is that late push, maybe like the under 4, he closed out with someone on a trap, he got a deflection, caused a turnover. I mean, so it's hard to, like, you can see it, you know, like he's able to get in the mix and stuff, but just from like a, 40 minutes of stuff, you're not seeing it lately. So I don't know. And it was Scoot. It was Jason Jatobo was that guy's name.
Mount Jatobo.
It was Mount Jatobo.
Mount Jatobo. I think the other thing to talk about in this is like we continue, I feel like as a team we continue to try to climb onto the back of Stevenson. Like I feel like he, Trey Mitchell. If Trey Mitchell has a great game, I feel like if Trey Mitchell comes out in the first half and he puts up 10 points or 12 points or 15 points, I'm like, oh, we got this game. But if Trey Mitchell isn't playing well and we're now all of a sudden saying, okay, Eric Stevenson's the guy, it makes me nervous because Eric Stevenson can be great and he can be stressful all at the same time, Johnson.
Yeah, he definitely can. I think the interesting thing, two things I wanted to ask you guys though specifically about this game. I think once again, it's interesting. We talk about these rotations all the time. Against Kansas, Hugs pretty much goes with his 5. I mean, they play the bulk of the minutes. Okonkwo splits time with Jimmy Bell and, Toots gets rotated in, but pretty much those 7 guys are all that played. Emmett Matthews, Trey Mitchell, Kedrian, Stevenson all score in double figures.
Yep.
And so that's one thing. I just Scoot. I wish that was the norm. I just wish it.
Well, are you saying that
we're
competitive against a top 5 team because we only played
people.
7 guys?
Yeah, with our base people, just base.
Because
guys.
We didn't throw Kobe in the mix.
We didn't play like 12 people. That
we didn't
drives.
Want to see what Jamel King had to do today or had to offer.
I don't understand the deep. But anyway, so that's one thing.
Did all the Josiahs get into this game?
And number two, Hugs. Guido, let me, I made a note of it in the trusty show notes. Hugs said we pressed in the post-game show. He said, well, we almost had to. We didn't really have a choice. Keedy was here when we were pressed Virginia. Emmett was here when we were pressed Virginia. Is that true? I can't.
I think Emmett more so than Keedy. I don't know.
He said,
I didn't think Keedy was.
He said,
right.
So they know what they're doing. And I read that and I thought, and Scoot, I text you. I was like, I'm just spitballing here, but maybe we should have been doing more of that all season.
It's as if, so we were pressed Virginia, like now it's probably onwards of 5 years ago, right?
It feels like a decade.
Yeah, it feels forever ago.
We were pressed Virginia, and we had to play a lot of guys when you were pressed Virginia. Mm-hmm. And then we went away from pressed Virginia, and it's as if the substitutions did not change from pressed Virginia.
So going back to what you said, Scoot, like at the beginning of all of this is where it does turn back into like it's a coaching issue because there's no why to this team, right? There's no like, what do we stand for? What are we doing? Pressed Virginia team was pressed Virginia, and you knew every game they were coming out as pressed Virginia, right?
They were coming after
there's no identity. If that's what if you're saying what's the identity of this team, there really is none.
And that falls on the coaching staff. That doesn't fall on the players.
Yeah, what's funny is like if you think of big time college coaches, each of the ones that are the most successful have something, right? Boeheim is the 2-3 defense.
Right. He's going to zone. Syracuse is going to zone you.
Right. Virginia has that pack line defense or whatever the garbage.
Right.
I think it's just like it's just called "Don't let the other team score." I don't know why
you're fond of. I can tell you're fond of it.
Well, it's ridiculous. It's not.
Don't let the other team score.
He runs that pack line defense. Okay, well, it's called "Don't let the other team score." Really, is what it's called, and box out.
Tony Bennett, innovator.
So, big time coaches have something. For a long time, Huggins was known for having what would be like the Brooklyn Brawlers of basketball, right? So you'd have like these street fighters, basically, where it was scary enough to face them playing basketball. It'd be even worse if you had to see them outside the arena. So
right.
We don't have that though, right? I mean,
Right.
What
are we? What are we? Like,
and
honestly, could you tell me?
Well, maybe we went astray, right? So we were pressed Virginia until we got Oscar. Oscar kind of changed that because Oscar was not that. Oscar was like a freak of nature, 5-star recruit. Like, listen,
he could have been.
Oh yeah, I think he could have done it too.
You know?
I think so, but we didn't. We kind of veered away. We had Deuce and Oscar. Well, then they leave, and then we brought in I don't want to say the nobodies. I don't want to say the nobodies, but we brought in the
the Bad News Bears of 2022.
The WVU Who Days.
The Who Days?
We brought the Who Days in. And that, like, I mean, I'll be honest, that last year is what probably set us back another 3 or 4. Not COVID, not transfer portal. There's no, we are basically looking for mercenaries to come in for a year or two.
But I thought he got him this year, Scoot. That's my argument to this. Is like, I think he got the guys. I don't think he's got them playing.
Right. They're better players.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think he won in the transfer portal this year. I think that's why we were so excited.
They're better players. But the coaching hasn't changed. The coaching is the problem. Like, the coaching is like he's rudderless.
But is that because is he coaching to the players and not coaching what he used to coach? I think that's what I feel about this team. It's like,
I don't know. Like, I don't know. I feel like, and let's be honest, like, I'm going to say what people think and no one's really willing to say. Like, the guy sits on a stool. He spends more of his time arguing with the referees about calls during every timeout than most coaches. The only time he really gets off a stool is to complain about a call. Like, there's not a lot of in-game coaching. Now, what happens in practice, I don't know. Like, a lot of times, I'm sure Larry would have ran a lot of practices back in the day. I don't know if that's something that happens now or the assistants are there and he kind of chimes in from time to time. I'm not really sure of that dynamic. But something is different in the sense that the game feels like it's either past him or he doesn't relate as well to the people he's trying to coach. I'm not really sure.
Johnson, is that Scooty trying to make himself the most hated person in West Virginia podcasting?
He's given it a run, I feel like, with that sentiment, but he's known to be Scoot, you're very like, I don't know, you're very like Bobby Heenan in this regard.
Yes, the brain. You're like Bobby the Brain Heenan. His nickname was the Brain.
I was thinking the Mouth of the South.
Oh, does Jimmy Hart.
Like, Jimmy Hart. I'm getting my WWF wrestling managers mixed up. But you tend to like, I'm going to tell you, look, this is what I'm thinking. I'm going to tell you what I'm thinking, and you don't hold back. So I think, I think if you're saying the game is starting to pass by, then are you saying like you got to start looking into a transition phase here?
Well,
or what?
I'm not saying fire the guy, but I am saying like, here's the reason why we may not be doing well. Like, if you want something to look at, because this is the reason.
He is now in the ilk of he will not be fired.
No, he's not going to get fired. Like
you're not firing. You're not. I mean, like, you're not firing Bob Huggins.
The hope is that he comes to the realization that when he realizes maybe things have changed, that he says, I'm ready to just be the guy that goes on like the tour to the alumni associations and shakes hands and eats barbecue.
That's big talk.
But I think we're having a different discussion though. If like, I don't know, like to me, someone tweeted like McCullough banks in a desperation 3 during the second half, crap like that, and you end up losing by a bucket. It does really stink that. I mean, I hate to, like I feel like we just read excuses these days. That feels like yet another thing to, just complain about. But you had a chance here and you didn't close it out. And I think that's like, to me, that turns the bus around and faces it at the coaching. I mean,
and Scoot, be honest. Like, let's say let's say that Toots does kick the ball out to Emmett. Emmett drains a 3. West Virginia gets their first win in the Phog, and we're doing this podcast. Are you talking differently? Like
No,
you're talking one play.
I think we are. I think we're having a totally different
too,
conversation.
I think we are too. I think we're talking a totally different
I don't know,
conversation.
because I've been feeling this way here now for a little while.
Because Scoot, we're not talking about Neil Brown in a sinking ship, right? We're talking about Bob Huggins that has a team that's, and you are the one who called me on it, has a team that's winning or losing games against Big 12 foes that are nationally ranked by a bucket or 2. It's not like last year when we're walking out of every game down 15.
Glad you said that, because this is where I'm going, right? So I was about to say, there's an old saying, like, if you lose by 6 or fewer, it's probably the coach. It's probably coaching. Now, if you're getting blown out, that's a difference in talent, right? But if these games are close and we're not closing out and winning, then there's probably some coaching that's either not got the guys ready or not helped get them to finish or whatever. There's definitely some more impact from the coach in a closer game than there is when the game is a blowout.
And what do you make of, I mean, this is kind of this is like in the weeds a little bit, but we were all watching that game. Did you catch the sequence in I believe the second half? Ron Everhart is in Hug's ear.
Yeah, I saw that.
And the camera stayed on Hugs because they were talking about something else. Hugs is giving him like the way my 15-year-old talks to me sometimes, or she's like, "You're such a ding dong," like that doesn't make any sense, and like the eye rolls and the face and everything, and then they sort of walk away from each other, and Hugs gives him the shrug, like, that's never going to work. I don't even know why you're telling me whatever it is you're telling me, and I was just sitting there watching the game thinking, like, I don't know, it doesn't feel like a cohesive coaching unit, like we're talking about the coaching, and I don't want to hammer on Hugs too much. He's earned the right to get the benefit of the doubt here, but just if you were to step back a minute, it doesn't feel like a big happy family of coaching.
No, well, and I think, I don't know. I don't know. I know Ron Everhart was a coach. He coached where Duquesne.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
But Scoot, in the context of Larry Harrison,
yes,
jettisoning, that's kind of what I'm.
Yes, Ron Everhart feels like he's weird. Of that same cloth, I guess. I don't know. I know that after one of the wins in the past 2 weeks, Hugs was a Ron Everhart scout. That was Ron.
That's true. That's true. That's true. I forgot about that. That's true.
But at the same time, like, I think there's some issues, obviously. Obviously there had to be some issues because Larry's not here anymore. In the mid-season, not here anymore. So that's weird, right? Nobody does that in the middle of a season. So there's obviously some sort of coaching issues, whether it was Larry going up against Hugs and trying to contradict him or undermine him or something. I don't really know if it was, when they say it was in the best interest of the university, if there was more to it than what we actually know, I don't know. But there's definitely some kind of coaching friction. There is, I don't know. I feel like the players are there. It's the product that we're seeing from them that's lacking, and that's got to be coming from the coach.
The weird thing, though, Hugs, now you're at a point where, to kind of bring it full circle to you talking about, is it what Joey Brackets has us 20, and we've got like the worst record in the top 40.
Yep.
Now you're sitting at 16-13, and Guido, post-game Hugs is saying, you turn on the TV and they say West Virginia needs one more win. I don't even know why we need one more win with the schedule we've played. And I think that's such a weird thing to hear him say.
Like, you've got 16 wins. You've only won 3 more than you've lost. Like, you need, obviously you need one more win.
Like, I know what he means. Like I get the sentiment, and that's why the computers love it. But when you've only won 6 of your conference games, that's why they're saying that.
So let's play this out, right? So 2 conference games left. And like, let's look at it right now. Let's do the Joe Lunardi. Let's do the bracketology thing, right? So if you look at most, if not all of the bracketology, most of them have West Virginia still in. And in with a bye, right? Not doing that, whatever the first,
Right.
the 4
Right.
games they play, right? So Joe Lunardi, Johnson, by the way, you need to get your wallet out. Joe Lunardi has West Virginia playing 11 in the East, which means that their first game would be in Greensboro.
Nice.
But here's the thing. Let's play this out. West Virginia has 2 more games left in the regular season.
And I said 6 conference wins. They only have 5. So
right. Like they only have 5 conference wins.
yeah.
They got to go to Ames
Right.
and deal with that Hilton Magic.
Hilton Magic, please.
Yeah.
Make me puke.
They're going to be mad, Guido, because they just kind of got housed by Oklahoma.
Yep.
Like they've lost a bunch in a row, and this last game was kind of ugly. So they'll be nice and angry for us.
And we kind of started WVU because Iowa was ranked 11th when we played them. Iowa State was ranked 11th when
That's
we played
true.
them.
Yeah.
WVU kind of started their slide, right? So we beat them 76-71 in the Coliseum back on February 8th, and then they just have kind of been down. I think they've won 1 or 2 games.
Yeah.
Since
They've
then.
won 1 game since they're 1-4
Yeah.
since we played them.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So now we come into Ames. They're cranked. We have to deal with the Hilton Magic.
Hilton Magic.
Like you got that going on, and then we come back home and we finish off the season senior day on Saturday against K-State with a 2:00 tip-off, only on ESPN Plus, by the way. I think, like, here's the thing: I don't think it matters how we perform in the Big 12 Conference. I think we have to win these 2 games to be in the tournament. And if we don't win these 2 games, then we have to win at least 1, if not 2 rounds in the conference tournament. Like I feel like we're in this situation where like we have got to win at least 2 or 3 more games to be in. And that's going to be that's harder than you think
Well,
it is.
I felt like 18 wins is where I wanted us to get to, and I felt confident, like a month ago, if we could just manage to limp to 18 wins. We're at 16. I tend to agree with you. I kind of even think if you split these and then go win one in the tournament, I don't know. That's a lot of losses that you've racked up. And to me, it's going to be tough, but I don't know. I don't know what to think at this point. I kind of thought the dream had died with the Texas Tech loss.
Right.
But the computers just continue to love this team, Scoot. I don't know. It's
Let me
the
say
weirdest
this.
thing. Like,
I'm going to throw something out. I feel like if we make it into the tournament and Huggins makes it to the second weekend of the tournament, maybe let's play crazy. Let's say we get to maybe even an Elite 8, because I do feel like if we get the right matchups, like look at Pitt,
Right.
we crushed Pitt.
and isn't that
top
the
team
weird
in the
thing
ACC.
that because of this whole thing, you probably do get a really low seed, and it does like set you up for a weird like people.
Like an 11 seed would be amazing.
Yeah,
right
and
now.
like then people underestimating you,
Right.
And then they run into you, and if we play decent,
Right.
So that could be
I'm
really
gonna throw this
interesting.
out there.
Okay.
If we can get to the second weekend, does Hugs walk away?
if he gets a Sweet 16 or an
Yeah.
Elite 8 team, does he retire on that?
Because I'm thinking like,
I don't know.
how many times is he going to fix it? Right?
Because he wants, he wants to go out on
Right.
top.
That's what I'm saying, like-
because he said last year, I can't go out like this. He actually
Right.
said that
So-
last year, right?
I think if we don't make it to the tournament, he comes back. But how many times is he going to be able to do that? Like, you basically are rebuilding again.
Yeah, because that's an interesting point, Scoot. We should noodle on this for a second, because if you do play it forward, you don't make the tournament, you're losing like the bulk of this whole team, right? I mean, you're losing your whole starting five, if I'm remembering correctly.
With the exception of Jimmy Bell.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
he might be.
I mean, you're losing the bulk of your team, and you are going to have to start from scratch again. So I don't know, Scoot. That's a really.
So I think
that's a really I don't know that I hadn't thought about it, but now that you ask it that way, I think if they went on some kind of decent run, maybe that happens.
I think fixing it I think prior to this year, maybe fixing it in our minds was like a Final Four, a national championship. Maybe fixing it is just getting us back into the tournament and being respectful, having a respectful showing in the tournament. Maybe that's fixing it. Because the guy's what, 70? Is he 70? Like,
yeah,
I mean, how many?
60,
68, 69?
Late 60s. Yeah. 68, I think.
My fear, though, Guido, is that so for a month, we've been saying West Virginia has to be in the tournament. Conference is hard. Joey brackets and people love us. Conference is hard. Conference is hard. Conference is hard. Don't hold all these losses against them. Conference is hard. My fear is we get in, we play some, obviously not from the Big 12 conference, maybe even a mid-major or something, and we get like Stephen F. Austin in the first
we'll
round.
Play like one of those, we'll play like one of those automatic qualifiers.
And then it'll be like, you'll have a horde of people saying, see, this is why they shouldn't have been. And that to me is going to be the potentially painful thing that I just don't want to deal with. If I'm being honest, like if we get there, then I want them to get their poop in a group and play well, like Scoot's talking about. I don't want to get there, get shellacked by a team that everyone doesn't feel so great about, and then you have to deal with that.
So let me ask you this question. Let's play the even. Let's go negative. Let's go dark, depressing. Okay. Scoot under a blanket.
Football mode. Let's go football mode.
Football mode.
Let's go football mode. Let's go football mode with this team.
Football.
Let's
mode
say we.
engaged.
Let's say we lose these last two games against Iowa State and K-State.
Okay.
And then we go into the tournament, the Big 12 tournament, the Phillips 66. We play in a giant stadium Big 12 tournament. And let's say we lose in the first round there. So we just, boom, next three games, lose.
So you finish 16-16.
We get an NIT invite. Are we going? We didn't last year. I don't know.
Man, that feels like for this group, if I'm Trey Mitchell, if I'm Trey Mitchell, Emmett Matthews, Eric Stevenson, I have to think they would look at that like I don't know, like this was not the target. I'm sure they would be like, ugh.
But a lot of them are going to be finishing out their careers, their collegiate careers.
Chance to play more ball. Yeah.
Potentially get their names. I think they play. I think they would play because I feel like
you'd be playing in the Coliseum,
But I feel like these guys are more likely to play professionally, not necessarily in the NBA, but these guys are more pros than the last group of guys. Like Malik Curry, where's he now? What was the guy with the same name? Paulie Polycap. You hear a lot from him in the professional.
Good cook. He was a good cook.
Like that's what I'm saying.
Here's the thing I'll say about it. I think they have to play in the NIT. I think they have to accept the NIT for two reasons. And they're both program-based reasons, right? You're in a situation now where the football program stinks and can't get into a bowl game. You're in a situation where you got a new athletic director. You just fired the last one, and the last one was the one who was the scapegoat for us not playing in the NIT last year, right? We didn't want to write the check. It costs a lot of money to play in the NIT. I think you have to. And then I think for those guys, you have to. I think for these, the Emmett who comes back and the Erickson who's been in college for 15 years and all of these guys who've played this much ball, you got to let them try to get some sort of postseason action. I think you have to if you're WVU.
What happens if you lose that first game in the NIT?
Well, that's what it is. What it is at that point. But I mean,
isn't it so? Like to me, it's a wonderful summary of this team and this season that you've talked a plausible scenario of keeping it together and getting to the Sweet 16, or a plausible scenario
lost the first round of the
rolling
NIT.
off a cliff. Yeah, and lost very first game in an NIT. Like, and both seem completely plausible to me.
Absolutely. Isn't that crazy? This is a very hard team to watch. It's very emotionally draining
it is.
as a West Virginia fan.
Right. Completely.
It is terrible. So we'll have to see what happens. Johnson, it's just been a stressful couple of months in basketball.
I guess
football, we had no expectations. I think that's the difference. Football, we had very low expectations.
Still don't.
Basketball, we had high expectations. We had higher expectations. Scoot had us winning, the national championship. So, so we should talk about some other news. Couple other WVU basketball news things. Congratulations to Joe Mazzulla. He is no longer the interim coach of the Boston Celtics. He is now officially the head coach of the Celtics. So, good on him. That's awesome. He's doing really well. Celtics are kind of raking through the NBA right now and playing really well. So good for him. Other crazy things that are kind of happening. I feel like it wasn't that long ago we were talking about Darius Nichols in that team. Unfortunately, Darius Nichols gets charged with a DUI earlier this week. Not looking good for him and his job down there in Radford, Johnson.
No, and this one I hate. And you're right. We had just talked about, I think he has Radford or had Radford at 15-9. They were having a great season by their standards. He's having a lot of success there. Picked up on this DUI charge, and I read later kind of a follow-on to that story that I think like he was like blood alcohol level 3 times the legal limit, stuff like that. So I'm hoping right now. It's interesting. His brother, I think, is an assistant. He has been named the interim head coach right now, but I guess we'll have to see. I hate this kind of thing for someone that looked like they were having a really promising start to a coaching career, but we'll see.
Congratulations to the Big 12. The Big 12, not only the best conference right now in basketball with the most teams in the top 25, all that craziness. Big 12 right now also leads in highest capacity attendance per game, 75% average, 75% capacity per game, 10% more than the next highest conference, Johnson.
Yeah, and so this graphic, and I'll put it in the show notes. The thing that jumped out to me, Scoot, was the Pac-12, 33%.
Like, they would have a tough time filling the TCU laser tag center at that rate.
Well, yeah, and it's like, is anyone on the West Coast paying attention to their sports anymore? Like, that just, to me, it's like, man, they're really going through it right now. I've never seen any. I mean, and we witnessed the Big East,
Well, does it make the Big 12 want to come on aboard?
Right? Yeah,
you guys really packed
You're
the house
right.
here in Oregon. Come on in.
I had the same thought. Yeah, it's like, come on in, guys. We love the success you're having with eyeballs. Like, come
Arizona
on in.
State,
Not
you
really.
really fill it up. Come on in.
Right.
Well, that leads us, guys, into a really good conversation, which is kind of football-ish, kind of just WVU general-ish. Let's talk about conference realignment, because it's back, baby. I mean, I think it's back, Johnson.
It feels back. So I think this talk sort of got kicked off earlier this month when Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark said, now that the news came out that Texas and Oklahoma will forego $100 million in revenue from the Big 12 to go ahead and exit, which, so there'll be one season in the 14-team format next season, then they're out, football-wise. And then he was quoted as saying, now that has kind of been settled, he wants to, quote, Scoot, aggressively pursue expansion.
Yeah, from what I've gathered, it may not be all football schools.
Right. We've heard Gonzaga. We've heard
Villanova.
Other scenarios mentioned. Yeah. So who knows? So then Guido it was like almost on cue. The Pac-12 releases a statement, and someone, I should have saved it. Maybe it was in a comment I read on Twitter, but someone said this had all the makings of like the Neil Brown hostage video, like it had the same feeling.
Everything's fine.
Yeah, the
We're
Pac-12
good.
releases like this. Everything's fine. We're all banded together and we love each other. Everything's fine here. Don't read anything into this. Everything's fine.
Yeah. And then, then you start hearing rumors like the Pac-12's trying to get San Diego State to come aboard. They're trying to, they're talking to SMU.
Which isn't that, Guido, like if I ever was going to group two people together, it would be like Cal Berkeley and the folks at SMU, right? That seems like just that just seems like a natural fit right there, does it not?
And this is where I get and conference realignment gets rough for me here, because then you get, Florida State starts getting their hawks up and they're like, hey, listen, guys, ACC, we're awesome. We need everything. There's no other ACC school that's as big as us. And then the ACC is like, well, we'll start talking to other people like Washington. And I'm like, or Oregon. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, ACC. Isn't your name Atlantic Coast Conference? Last time I checked, Oregon and Washington were on the other coast.
Yeah, and this, I think this one really grabs everyone's attention, Guido, because Florida State's AD basically tells the rest of the conference, like you said, hey, we're a brand, but the whole point of the discussion was like, look, we want uneven revenue distribution.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're expecting. And this Dennis Dodd tweets this out. There was like a YouTube video of some presentation they did. And to me, this is like a shot across the bow if you ever saw one to kick this off.
Yeah, Dennis Dodd says Florida State's general counsel puts $120 million price tag on buying out of the ACC.
That's crazy. That is crazy.
Are we there?
Yeah, right. That's insane.
And then,
to me.
and I'll tell you right now, and this is the time of year where that happens, Scooty. Like, this starts to happen right around March Madness. This is the last couple times that we've had these big shifts. It's all happened like shortly in or around March Madness. You see the national championship game end, and then like come April, May, when we had the big turnover 10 years ago, that's when this happened. And I feel like this is going to happen.
So let's play this out for a second.
Okay.
Let's say the four schools that I've heard the most, the Gonzaga, Villanova, and the two Arizona schools,
Yep.
join the Big 12.
Okay.
Are you excited?
No. Am I excited? As a West Virginia fan, am I excited? No.
Yeah, and I don't know why Villanova would ever do that. Like, to me, I don't know. Or Gonzaga, to be honest. I mean,
I think Gonzaga
I don't really know.
will. I think they would be more likely to than Villanova, because I feel like the big knock on Gonzaga has always been, well, they're not in a real conference. And like you remember, Hugs made the comment like, "Hey, be careful what you wish for."
Right.
Yeah.
So
right.
my guess is,
but if you're a Gonzaga fan, aren't you holding your little flower in your hand that you water every season, and you're like, we have this little thing we love, and then you're just gonna run the car over it.
Here's our 20 wins. Like, we get them.
Right.
They're like given to us.
Like, come on.
Here's the thing. I think they think they're good, though. I think they think they're better than that. I think they can play with anybody. So they're like, Big 12, watch out, because here we come. You guys.
But let's play this out, though. Let's really play this out, Scoot. So Florida State does take the jump, because that's what you need, right? Minus San Diego State and SMU joining the Pac-12, or maybe these schools. Like, I think if San Diego State and SMU and the Pac-12 can hold it together, I don't know the Arizona schools. They may hang. Gonzaga, whatever, I don't care about. Nova, whatever. It's interesting from a basketball standpoint. I get it, but let's say Florida State does make the jump. Let's say Florida State goes, hey, you know what? We're worth more, and we've got the SEC on the phone. What happens at that point, right? Because then you got Florida State makes the jump. The ACC's starting to go, well, we got to grab people. Does West Virginia have any chance of changing at that point, or are we still stuck where we are?
I don't know.
Well, I'll go, Scoot. I'll go first. My fear, Guido, is that meme of like from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air where he walks into the living room and all the furniture is gone. Like my fear has always been when they finally bring WVU to the ACC table, it won't be the ACC that we had wanted to be a part of. Right. And I think in fairness to like a Ren Baker,
But is that true, Johnson, though?
Well,
Is that true, though? If you went to the ACC and Florida State wasn't there and Miami wasn't there, but Virginia Tech was there and Pitt was there and Virginia was there, and you had some regional rivalries.
Yeah. My fear is that those people would all like. My fear is that it wouldn't like it would strip a bunch more away. I guess. I guess I should have prefaced that.
In true West Virginia fashion, I believe you can tell that I've become a fan. I believe the ACC will grab like Washington and Oregon before they come to West Virginia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would
tick me off. Just like they went and got Boston College and Syracuse.
Right. You're exactly right. I agree. And I think too, if you're like a Ren Baker, I think they would look at it as a business proposition, and they like if other things stayed status quo and the ACC is trying to grab you to bolster what's falling apart, I think you would probably stop and say, yeah, no, I'm doing just fine over here with my my TV package.
Does it hurt us that our athletic director has no true understanding of these regional, rivalries and the historic part? Like guys from Texas, right, or Oklahoma originally, and then most recently Texas or whatever. Like in my mind, he's kind of a Big 12 guy through and through, right? I mean, he was at North Texas.
I mean. Yeah,
that's all he knows.
I mean, he's that region, right? Definitely.
That's all he really
have
knows.
That region
Big 12
perspective.
Stuff.
Yeah,
right.
So, in his mind, does he think, well, Big 12's the best, and we can't leave the Big 12 because that's what I know, and I know it's how good it is.
It could be, yeah.
Everyone in the state, but him and maybe Gordon Gee or whoever, are like, let's go to the ACC, please.
I just think he would be more apt to look at it from the business perspective, where. So we're talking about the ACC. I think if I remember correctly, they're tied into a already not great contract through like 2036 or something.
It would be a money loss for us for sure.
Right. So I think he would look at it like I think it's my obligation to not put us in a money losing situation from our current. So
yeah, I think that's why Florida State is just chomping at the bit to get out. Because the ACC is in a horrible contract.
What if the Big 12 brought in Florida State?
I mean,
they're going to be. Brett Yormark said he's going to be aggressive. That would be aggressive. They've already got Central Florida.
I think the SEC's looking for those teams.
I get it.
Like the SEC's just waiting for those, those apples to fall off the tree so they can pick them up.
Wouldn't that be something?
It would be something. I mean, it would start to change my opinion a little bit more of the Big 12. I'll say that. I would say that, like, especially from a football standpoint. Not that it matters for us because Neil Brown's our head coach and we're not going to win 3 games next season.
Or in a row.
We are so negative on football right now.
I do have a positive football note.
Okay.
It's been 13 weeks since WVU threw a screen pass.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that is positive.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing us around.
Thanks, Scoot.
So, guys, we should probably try to start wrapping it up. A couple of things we do need to cover, though, before we do. Congratulations to Chuck Howley, former West Virginia football player, newly inducted into the NFL, the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Howley, from Wheeling originally, played his college career at West Virginia in the 50s, and then he had a pretty amazing professional career in the NFL from 1958 to 1973, mostly with the Cowboys as a linebacker. So congratulations to him. Also, congratulations to Dante Stills, who got drafted by the New Orleans Breakers of the USFL, which starts, I think, in a couple of weeks here. Like, I think mid-April it starts.
I think that's right,
If you want to watch some football, Dante will be playing some professional football there, and it's good. Like, I do think it's great that they're giving another United States professional option for some of these guys who are great football players. They don't have to go to Canada. They can play it plays just like the NFL. It looks just like the NFL.
Well, and I like it for Dante too, because I think it gives him some insurance if his NFL draft dream doesn't go the way he wants. I think it's cool. I think good for him.
Right. I would be remiss, guys. We are 3 baseball guys, and we don't talk enough baseball. but it is still early in the season. WVU baseball is right now they're 4-3. They lost 2 out of 3 to Georgia Southern to start off the season last week, and then they went to College Park and they played in. And Scoot, this is a great name for a baseball stadium, by the way, Scoot. You're going to love this. They played Maryland, number 13th ranked Maryland, in Bob Turtle Smith Stadium.
Oh, I like it.
That's so you get like a Turtle Smith Stadium right there. But they beat Maryland 8-6 in College Park, a 13th ranked Maryland. And then they went into Arizona this past weekend and took 2 out of 3 from Arizona. So that's, catching up. Interesting. They play an exhibition game Monday night, probably the day that you're listening to this podcast, against the Arizona Diamondbacks. It's their minor league squad. So, but it's interesting that they get to do that.
I think that's amazing for those guys.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
They're going to Salt River Fields. That's the minor league training facility for the Diamondbacks. Obviously, the relationship there is Ken Kendricks, who is a West Virginia University alumni, pretty big donor, part of the Country Roads Foundation, also is the owner of the Arizona Diamondbacks. And then we've got a couple of games coming up this week on TV. You can see us play William and Mary in Williamsburg later this week, again on Flow Sports. And then we go and we play VCU at the Diamond in Richmond, and that game's on ESPN Plus on Saturday. So definitely get a chance to check that out. But WVU baseball coming along. JJ Weatherholt, who was kind of the standout last year, leading right now, kind of the team leader, leads the team in hits, RBIs. I think Braden Berry might lead in RBIs, or tied with him. JJ Weatherholt has 2 home runs so far going into the season. So definitely check out Randy Mazey and his team. Doing well. Conference play doesn't start for another 2 weeks. We start off another 3 weeks, actually. We start off against Kansas State later in March, so definitely check out WVU. A lot of games on ESPN Plus. You get to watch WVU baseball, guys. Hey, and listen, don't forget, find us as well. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Got Your Ears. You can also find us on Twitter, same way. And check out our website, gotyourearson.com. Johnson, you can buy stuff there.
You can buy stuff. You can click through from the website to the merch store and check out all the merch. You can listen to the latest show right in the link on the show, on the homepage, and you can also check out all the show notes that we had for this week's show right there on the page. So check it all out.
Yeah, check it out. GotYourEarsOn.com. WVU Basketball plays 2 games this week. They play on Monday, the 27th, in Ames, Iowa. Got that Hilton Magic on ESPN2. That's a 9 p.m. Eastern Time tip-off. And then they play on Saturday back at the Coliseum, 2 p.m. against Kansas State for Senior Day. Scooty, we'll be back next week with another show. It's either going to be a really happy show or a really depressing show.
But it will be a show.
It will be a show.
Yes,
confirmed it will be a show. So definitely check that out. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll be back soon. Let's go Mountaineers. You've been listening to Got Your Ears On.